this issue of steering and the sort of more complex issues of how the institution relates to the broader social issues. And if I can make one other comment relating to what Professor Ritson said, the role of the private universities is of growing importance around the world, not so much here, but in other countries. Some people talk about the private university serving the public interest. And how do you do that? And I think the issue of who's paying is the key issue, and I agree with Professor Ritson that if you're a private institution, you should have the freedom to do more or less what you want. But I think the private sector, particularly in terms of quality assurance, needs to be controlled to some extent by accreditation and quality assurance authorities. Let me leave it there.
Well, let me also try to reflect on these three questions. All three have been very important questions. I think the first gentleman said something in the nature also, I'm translating, it's the top research universities which carry the system, and I would agree with that. I think that's also why I started my own presentation in a way in which I would not like to do this in the Netherlands or in any of the European countries, because it would too easily lead to the notion that everyone wants to be a top research university, where I think we all three agreed that your approach to look at the university system is so important. But at the same time, I think it's self-evident in many respects that the top universities carry the system. And in that respect, I think your questions, or actually your remarks on the importance of research in attracting good students and good faculty is extremely important. There was, in my view, something in which I have a constant battle and in which I do quite often give presentations which I encountered with a lot of criticism, because I do say that the first role of universities is always in education, and that the research can be a separate role, but it should always serve also the purpose of education. It should always be something which is linked to education. So in my university also we have this debate, because we have people who consider themselves to be only researchers. And I say, actually, if you're only a researcher, then you're not the right place. You have to be involved in bringing your research also to the table in graduate teaching, in PhD programs, and in such a way, because that's what we are for. And actually, I would think it's almost an impossibility that you would not like to do that, because at least that's my own experience. If you have been a professor, then you like to involve the smart students in your work, and actually you gain a lot from that in the sense also of your own learning. On the second is actually, I have two different answers. One is, it would be really nice, and I'm going to make sure, if you would agree, that I sent you all invitations for the next upcoming meeting of the European University Association, because your questions are all questions which also come up in this gremium of the European University Association. And what I like about this association is that it is at the moment doing a lot of detailed studies. So they have a study on differentiation, which I think gives you also a lot of feeling for the experiences in Europe about the difficulties in differentiation. Indeed, as Professor Albach said, every university wants to be a research university, so you have to come to the notion also that differentiation is being rewarded and that it's held also in esteem. This is something I've noticed about the American system, that an American research university does have a lot of esteem for a college, does have a lot of esteem also for a community college. So it is a system which is, I think, sustainable because of this esteem. On differentiation. On autonomy, I would very much like the gentleman who asked this question about autonomy to refer to the website of the European University Association, because I have a full report about autonomy. In my book, I also refer a lot to autonomy, and there is also an article of mine in the